million, they could name it whatever they wanted to name it. But we haven't had any takers yet. I'm not sure about the name. That's still up in the air. I'm not sure.
So I guess, of course, you wouldn't have a name yet. I apologize for that. But would it be considered feasible to be named outside of just what the school division has in line?
It would definitely be the community something. I don't know, unless somebody does come up with a pile of money, you know, then we'll have to kind of reevaluate that. But I'm not exactly sure where the alumni group that's we're working with now is a very easy to get along with group. Lots of young guys, and everybody's a very practical person, or people, and I just think it's gonna work this time. The other group, we just couldn't make it work, but this group here, they want to build it. They want, everybody's really gung ho on getting going. They've got pledges sheets made out that are going to be given out here pretty quick. We're going to have a community event at the community center probably in 2, maybe 3 weeks. And put that same picture up there, and they'll have somebody up there explaining everything, and they're kind of looking for donations and stuff, right? But it will be a community place.
Deputy Reeve King.
So I guess my question is, I know we had said earlier that we would commit $50,000 towards this project. Are you here today basically to confirm that we're still willing to do that, or are you here with your hat in your hand asking if we would consider doing more than that?
Well, there's nothing wrong with $50,000. That's an awesome amount, and we really appreciate that. But you know what? Like I told Jerry, inflation. You know, we are looking for a little bit more, if we could. I don't know how to say that politely. And I don't want to seem like I'm begging, but you know what, if you could help us out a little bit more, that would make our jobs a lot easier and us reach our goal a little quicker.
Yeah, I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Cunningham.
So can I confirm with administration, so that 50,000 that we pledged, when was that done?
Originally,
before our
it
time,
was done a long time ago.
Okay, yeah.
It was reaffirmed in 18, I do believe.
Yeah, so the last motion we have through Mr. Reeve is from 2018 in August of that year.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because I didn't think it's come forward in the last 2 years since I've been here. So.
No, that amount, since that confirmation in 2018, there was a couple, 3 years where we were just treating it as a carry forward in our budget. Then a couple of years ago, we switched that. It's now sitting in a reserve so that you're not seeing it in the budget every year, but it is sitting earmarked in a reserve.
Yeah, it was, there was actually a motion made shortly after the Trochu gym had been completed, within a few years of that. And that number, we had also contributed to the Trochu Gymnasium at that point, or before that. So.
One other comment, like when they built the PCA gym, I'm not sure how many people have been in the PCA gym. It was 8 years ago, and it was $3,000 a square meter. That was 8 years ago. Now it's $5,800, and it's still climbing. The price of concrete and everything is just skyrocketing. So the costs have come up a lot. So.
Yeah, it's been a long time since the Acme school has been, well, I wouldn't say, since there was a new portion of the Acme school. I do believe I was in grade 3. So that was just shortly after the dinosaurs. And when that addition was added, it was added to the old addition, which is still there. So it's great to see a new school going in Acme, especially with the growth in the population that's happened and looking like it's going to continue happening. And I think it's important that we do have these recreational facilities there for, like you said, if 72% of the kids are rural, it benefits not only the village, but it benefits the rural area around. And with consolidation of schools and what have you, I just see the populations of that school growing. So, Deputy Reeve King.
In some ways, I'm sitting here a little bit jealous of what you're doing in Acme. At least you've had a provincial funding announcement. I'm sitting on the Trochu Housing Board, and we're trying to put a facility in Trochu, and we've been awaiting an announcement for a long time. So I'm sort of semi-jealous of what you're doing down there. However, I did want to say I really appreciate the program that the Acme School has there through your Innovation Center, I think you're calling it, but the partnerships you've formed with businesses and the mentoring that they do with the students within your school. I think that's a very amazing program, and you should be very proud of that, and I know you are, and the community is, and so I want to acknowledge that that's a program I'd like to see spread further within Golden Hill School Division for sure, and into other schools. So you're doing some really amazing things down there, and it's seen and noted anyway, so thank you for that.
Councillor Forbes?
Because we asked this of the Ag Society in Torrington, what is your ask on top of the 50,000? Like your low to your high, so we can have a number to play with when we have the conversation.
If we want to call it Kneehill County, that'd be $1 million.
Well, that's kind of a hard question, but I went and I did one of these speeches to a group. Was it on last Thursday night? And they called me and after the meeting, and they said, Jim, we're going to up ours to $150,000. I don't expect you guys to give $150,000. If $100,000 would be out of this world, that would be awesome. We would be very grateful. We're grateful for $50,000, but if you can see it, see $100,000, that would really help us out. It's easier to fundraise one time than it is to need more and have come back and fundraise again. It's always harder, because Three Hills did that with their gym. They were short and they had to go back. Norm Campion and Clayton Loeb had to go back the second time, and it was tougher, really tough. So.
Are there any other questions from council to the presenter? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming, Mr. Northcott. I appreciate your time. I know you were supposed to be someplace else right now. We will deal with this further on in our agenda. And good luck. I think it's a very worthwhile cause, and like you say, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, thank you for coming.
Okay, well, thanks for hearing what I had to say.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So our next agenda item, 5.4, economic development. Welcome, Jenna.
Thank
Anytime
you.
you're ready.
Good morning. I'm bringing to you a request for a decision on the councillors' attendance at the 2023 post-election Alberta Tourism Advocacy Summit, which occurred yesterday, September 25th, and there were 5 councillors present. This item was first brought to discussion at the latest Committee of the Whole meeting, and I'm bringing this to you as under Policy 3-1, Section 8. It is the responsibility of the councillor to ensure a motion of council for the councillor's attendance is made prior to the councillor claiming it on their monthly expense report. So my recommendation to you is that council approves the attendance of the members of council at the 2023 post-election Alberta Tourism Advocacy Summit in Calgary yesterday on Monday, September 25th, 2023.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council for Ms. Kester? Deputy Reeve King.
So because I didn't attend, so because I didn't attend, and so that the other councillors who did don't have to feel bad about making this motion, I'm going to make the motion. that council approve the attendance of all members of council at the 2023 post-election Alberta Tourism Advocacy Summit in Calgary on Monday, September 25th, 23. And I trust that you all enjoyed yourselves and learned something, and you're going to report back.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve the attendance of council at the post-election Alberta Tourism Advocacy Summit. Is there any discussion to that motion? Councillor Christie.
One of the catchphrases that I heard yesterday that kind of stuck in my mind is, what got us here won't get us there. So it was definitely educational where we're going to go to.
Okay, is there any other discussion to the motion? All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thanks, Ms. Gester.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I always hate this part, but anyway, the annual tax cancellations. Welcome, Ms. Nyman. And anytime you're ready.
Good morning, Reeve and Council. Today I'm bringing forward the annual tax cancellations for gas co-ops as per policy 16-15, as well as a portion of grants in place of taxes. So the first one is the gas co-ops. So in June 2016, Council approved a policy 16-15 that gives direction to cancel the taxes of gas co-ops operating within the borders of Kneehill County. So every year we've been bringing them forward for a cancellation. The second one is a grants in place of taxes. So this property, the county has one property that belongs to the government of Alberta. And then in 2019, the province reduced funding for this program and directed municipalities to issue their normal tax bills, and we would receive 50% of the eligible amount. So following these provincial changes, we've been bringing this forward yearly to council to cancel as well. And I just wanted to mention for policy 16-15, if you guys feel that this is something that you would like to have in a bylaw and brought forward every 4 years instead of 3, that is possible. So your guys' options today. Oh, sorry, I guess I should let you know that the financial impact of this is $3,797.97 to cancel. So you guys can approve the cancellation of taxes as per policy 16-15, approve the cancellation of taxes per provincial directive, or you can approve the cancellation of taxes per policy 16-15 and the provincial directive, or accept for information.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any questions for Ms. Nyman? Nope, looks like you're off the hook
Oh, one down.
so far.
So far, yeah.
Okay, so what are council's wishes? Deputy Reeve King?
Always with reluctance, we hate to cancel taxes. However, we recognize that this is a policy that we put in place to assist the gas co-ops. And although we don't necessarily like to assist the province in this way, we have an agreement with them. So I'll make the motion to approve the cancellation of the 2023 taxes for gas co-ops as per policy 16-15 and the cancellation of the portion of the grants in place of taxes program not paid by the province for roll number 30211533000.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion before us as presented on screen. Is there any discussion to that motion? All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously, reluctantly, but I think canceling the gas co-op taxes isn't a big deal. It saves our residents some money, so.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you. So, here we go. 6.2 bylaw 8, am I correct in that? Bylaw 1891, yes I am.
You are.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So I'm bringing forward, this is for the third reading of the residential tax arrears payment plan. Council gave the first and second reading with the direction to bring it back clarifying that this is for residential tax arrears payment plan. So we've clarified that in the bylaw 4.1. The tax arrears payment plan is applicable to residential properties only, and we've added some wording changes to just clarify more that this is for residential taxes. So I am just requesting that you guys give third reading to bylaw 1891 to authorize and establish this tax arrears payment plan, or you could direct me to bring it back for additional information.
Does council have any questions? What's council's, Councillor Cunningham.
I'll move that council provide third and final reading to bylaw 1891 to authorize the establishment of a tax arrears payment plan.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion to provide third reading to bylaw 1891. Any discussion to that motion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Well, 6.3, bylaw 1890. Anytime you're ready, Ms. Diamond. You're on a roll.
So this is the tax penalty structure. We are proposing that this would replace bylaw 1680 and would come into effect in January of 2024. It wouldn't apply to this year, it'd just be for next year. So our current penalty structure is 2% charged monthly, and it's 24% annually and has been in place since 2005. Tax penalties are defined by the local authority, and there is no provincial regulations for penalties. Administration's proposal is based on the current 24% per annum penalties. However, council wishes to explore changes to the annual penalty amounts. Administration is prepared to speak to the anticipated impacts of those changes. Administration is proposing changes to the penalty structure to provide a static balancing option to allow for better communication with our ratepayers and improve operational efficiency in this area. So currently the tax balances change monthly. We provide statements 3 times a year to ratepayers, and that is in June, November, and January. This results in ratepayers frequently paying what they perceive to be their accurate balances without accounting for penalties that inquire monthly that they haven't been notified of. For example, a ratepayer who chooses to pay his or her taxes on March 15th would not yet receive via mail the statement that is inclusive of monthly penalties that was applied to their account after the statement date. So adjusting the application of penalties to the proposed structure ensures the tax amounts outstanding remain static from the statement date until the next printed statement is processed. So currently we process statements in November, January, and June, but we are proposing to change that to November, February, and June, and apply penalties in this time frame. So instead of monthly, they would be applied right before we notify people of their balances. This provides greater relief for ratepayers as they will receive a 2% penalty as of November on all unpaid taxes. However, they will not incur any future penalties unless their taxes remain outstanding as of February 1st, at which point a 10% penalty would be applied. Following February, no additional penalties are applied until June, at which point the remaining 12% would be applied to outstanding taxes. This structure draws greater alignment with other municipalities, simplifies our administrative process, and also provides greater capacity within taxation to support year-end functions in January as required. If supported by council, administration would recommend that these changes be effective in January, and that these changes would be communicated through our newsletter, website, social media. Any agreements in place would have their payment schedules amended to reflect council's decisions.
Okay, is there any questions for Ms. Nyman from council? Councillor Penner?
Not a question, just for clarification. On the screen here, it says November, February, and May 1st. Should that be June 1st? You were just saying the new ones, November, February, and June? Or am I interpreting that wrong?
Your mic is on.
Sorry about that. I should have said May. June is when they go out. So we would want to apply them right before they go out.
Okay, any other questions from council members? Deputy Reeve King?
Not that we ever want to make money on overdue taxes. So the way I read this, we're not anticipating a change in penalty revenue, either positive or negative, based on when we're charging the interest, right? So we're anticipating the budget would stay, we budget about what I think it says in here, it's 100,000 a year that we budget as revenue on penalties. We're not anticipating that we'd see a change one way or the other.
We're anticipating, because of the structure, we're anticipating a small change. If we leave it the same, we think it might be a difference of about 4,000, just from timing. But that, we're not expecting a huge drop in penalty revenues.
Does council have any other questions for Ms. Nyman? If not, what's council's wish? Councillor Penner?
If there's no more questions, I'd make the motion that council provide first reading to bylaw 1890, that being a bylaw for the purpose of establishing a tax penalty bylaw.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion before us to provide first reading to bylaw 1890. Is there any discussion to that motion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Councillor Christie?
I'd make a motion to provide second reading for bylaw 1890.
Okay, we have a motion for second reading to bylaw 1890. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Councillor McGee?
I move that we provide unanimous consent for third and final reading to bylaw 1890.
Okay, we have a motion to provide consent to hold third reading for bylaw 1890. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Let the record reflect that it was a unanimous consent given. Councillor Cunningham?
I'll move that council provide third and final reading to bylaw 1890.
Okay, we have a motion before us to provide third and final reading to 1890. Any discussion? Last opportunity. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Thanks, Regina. Alrighty, our next agenda item, 6.4, operating and project forecasts. Welcome, Ms. Von Burbach, and anytime you're ready.
Good morning, Reeve and Council. Today I bring forward to you the operating and project forecasts for this year. The MGA requires municipalities prepare both operating and capital forecasts. These forecasts are not budgets and do not provide administration with any authority to spend the forecasted funds. However, they're intended to provide council with a forward-looking view of the upcoming challenges and opportunities facing the municipality. This report contains the 2024 to 2027 operating forecast and the 2024 to 2029 capital and project forecast. I'll just note these are extended a little bit. They're 4 years of operating and 6 years of capital. The MGA requires 3 years of operating and 5 years of capital, and council has not yet adopted the forecast for related to the 2023 budget. So this information is for the 2023 budget, but the information will also be included within the 2024 budget package. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with a forward-looking view of all the financial considerations which will be addressed during future budget deliberations. Appendix A represents the anticipated revenue and expenditures associated with providing the same level of service that's been included in the 2023 budget. The subsequent appendices B through E provide the details as to the fluctuations of that core operating forecast as compared to the 2023 operating budget. So they are not cumulative, they are all compared to the 2023 budget. Appendix F provides the anticipated capital and operating projects which may be considered by council in upcoming cycles. So with regard to the operating forecast, there are 5 appendices that relate to it. Again, Appendix A is the overview of this summary of where everything fluctuates. And then Appendix B, C, D, and E are all talking about what those forecasted fluctuations are as compared to the 2023 budget. There are forecasted deficits within each of the next 4 years. The MGA allows forecasts to present a deficit, but they must be addressed during council deliberations. When council comes to budget deliberations, there'll be several options to guide administration to close those forecasted deficits, including tax rate adjustments, service level adjustments, new revenue sources. So again, Appendix B to E is the cumulative fluctuations, and the intent with this is to provide a big picture overview of where we will sit within a few years, rather than to get lost in the details of fluctuations within each individual year. So their cumulative forecasted shortfall is $3.8 million over the next 4 budget cycles. If there were no other mitigating measures taken, and these were the amounts that would move forward in future years, that would be approximately a 15.3% tax rate increase over 4 years. So looking at the revenues, the first category is licenses as permits, which is forecasted to drop by 10%. This is just a reduction in planning and development related permitting, which has been experienced in 2023. Operating grants has a drop of 21%. This is related to a forecasted reduction in MSI operating funding. In 2023, we had a duplicate, like a double payment from the province, and there's been no indication that that will continue into 2024. They're also reassessing MSI into the LGFF funding, and we're not sure what those amounts are. So we've reduced that operating grant down to what levels we've been experienced in 2022, not what we had in 2023. There's also been a slight increase in ag services funding, which is based on new agreements that we have with the province. There's a 40% increase in other revenue, and this relates to oil field water agreements that are based on 2023 trending for that line item. Sales of goods and services is representing about a 9% increase over the next 4 years. This relates to increases in bulk water and water distribution system revenues, increases in dust control revenues, various small adjustments including MAP sales, scrap metal sales, and campground revenues, as well as an increase in oil field inspections that are based on historical trending. Sales to other governments is forecasting a 36% increase relating to agreements with urban municipalities for the provision of enforcement services. Rental income has a small 1% increase. This is just related to rate increases based on existing contracts. Penalties and fines is representing a 40% decrease. This relates to improved collection rates over recent years and some of our trending that we've done, specifically with industrial tax accounts, and also new programming related to residential tax accounts and arrears that will no longer be accruing interest if they're on those tax payment plans. Property taxes, we've forecasted a 0% change in that. Now, that is done with the acknowledgement that property tax revenues are something that becomes a part of council deliberations. We also haven't included anything related to assessment shifts in terms of how that impacts property tax revenues, again, in recognition that that's a part of the council deliberation process when it comes to passing the actual budget on a year-to-year basis. Special taxes and frontages has an 82% decrease. This relates to the expiration of water frontage agreements that relate to original water system implementation. There's also an offsetting decrease in contributions to reserves because that revenue has historically always been automatically contributed into the water reserve. Likewise with property taxes, return on investments has a 0% forecasted change. This is related to the fact that it's actually on the project forecast as an item for council discussion in terms of where investment revenues, whether they should be funding the core operating budget or whether they should be contributed back into reserves for long-term planning purposes. Transfer from reserves has no forecasted amounts. These are related to operating projects and or transfers that are related to balancing the budget in any given year. So we don't forecast any draws from reserves within the operating forecast. And there's been no change to the capital equipment sales line item. It remains at $100,000. Again, this one is one where the funds are automatically, when they're raised, they're automatically contributed back into the capital equipment plan reserve. So it's always an offsetting and net zero on the bottom line of the operating budget or the forecast. So moving on from there, I'll speak to some of the fluctuations within expenditures. Contract goods and services is presenting a 10% increase over the next 4 budget cycles. These include insurance premium increases based on 5% annually, just to reflect anticipated premium increases. Again, this is just a forecast, so when we go year to year, those numbers will be better processed within the background to determine the correct amount to increase that amount by. It also includes major maintenance, which is based on cost increases and historical trends for these services. Costs related to training and development to ensure staff maintain existing position requirements and accreditations. Costs related to vehicle repairs and maintenance, again related to costing trends, especially the increases in the last couple of years. Increases with IT contracts, building maintenance costs, including alarm maintenance and other contracted maintenance. Parks maintenance, costs relating to advertising and public relations, and miscellaneous costs related to multiple functions, including postage, freight, and waste collection. Planning and inspection services increases based on historical trending and professional contracts, including legal, engineering, and auditing. Materials, goods, and supplies is representing a 27% increase. The significant portion of this is related to a 10% increase on our fuel budget. Again, this is just a flat rate that's been applied to what we currently have because it's hard to tell exactly what that'll look like year to year. So as the budget process goes forward, each year that number gets more and more refined for each budget cycle. But that's a placeholder at this time to kind of acknowledge where it could go. It also includes shop equipment and vehicle repair supplies based on 2023 trending of cost increases and what our actuals have looked like in 2023. Increases related to water for resale, which align with the forecasted revenue increases. Road maintenance supplies, dust control supplies, a 1% increase per year on utilities. Weed control chemical increases based on 2023 trending. Small tools, those are items that don't qualify as tangible capital assets but are needed for staff to do their jobs. Safety supplies and other general goods and supplies based on 2023 trending. The next item is salaries and wages and benefits, which is representing a 14% increase over the next 4 budget cycles. This number has just had a flat percentage increase based on the average increase over the last 4 budget cycles, and that's been applied to each year. So this has really been indicated as a placeholder to acknowledge that there will be likely fluctuations in that line item, but we've utilized a base rate so that we're not like, when council sees the budget in each given year, there's much more detail behind the scenes in terms of what rates the government is charging for CPP and EI and WCB and all of those types of items. Other expenses has a 3% increase. They're related to the operation of urban waste management sites. Provision for allowances, again, this item has a 0% change. It is actually reflected on the project forecast as an item for council deliberations during 2024. Given the recent improvements in the collection cycle, administration has some recommendations on how council could adjust that line item. So it's going to be put forward in the 2024 budget cycle as an item for council discussion. And it's something that could potentially be decreased from where it is. Council will recall that it was decreased from a height of $1.1 million within the last couple of years. Purchases from other governments has a 2% increase. This relates to some enforcement contract amendments as well as a small decrease from the Aqua 7 requisition. Transfers to other governments, they're related to contracted agreements. Transfers to individual and organizations, these relate to policies which have COLA adjustments included in them. No adjustments have been forecasted for transfer to local boards and agencies. A 5% increase to contributions to reserves. Now there's three components of this one. One is an increase in contribution to the gravel replacement strategy process to ensure that when our existing gravel stockpiles run out, we have a funding mechanism to move forward. It also includes some increases related to capital equipment plan contributions based on 2023 pricing and trends that we've been seeing. And it includes the decreased contribution related to the expiration of water frontage agreements, for which there's a decrease of revenues as well. There's nothing forecasted for non-TCA operating projects, as those are all reflected on the last appendix within the project listing. And gravel inventory projects has a 2% increase related to the costs of crushing our annual gravel supply. So that brings me to the end of the core operating forecast. And so the next piece is the capital and project forecast. So these are effectively all the items that we anticipate will be up for council deliberation that will change service levels. So everything I just spoke about is really operating as if we were operating in 2023. The same service levels, the same way we are operating. Everything that comes into Appendix F is really those items that could change those, or replacement of assets or maintenance of assets. So there's 5 different categories that we've listed here, where they're not just capital and operating projects. We've chosen to go this way to give council a little bit more detail about what kind of how to categorize these projects. So the first one is replacement of existing assets. So these are assets that the county already owns, but are anticipated to hit the end of their useful life, and they're required to maintain existing service levels. And there's maintenance of existing assets. So again, these are ones that are required to maintain existing service levels, but are not or will not be performing to their required levels. New assets represent new assets which don't currently exist on the county's asset base, but will be requested in coming years, or are anticipated to be requested in the coming years. Then there's one-time operating projects. This is a category council's well versed with. Those are the ones that kind of come into our operating budget typically every year and are funded through reserves. So they're not capital in nature, but they provide administration the ability to maintain or assess service levels and to facilitate and progress council's strategic plan. And then the last category is new initiatives. So these are items that would, if approved by council during budget deliberations, would end up being incorporated within the core operating budget moving forward. So they can be new staffing requests or changes to service levels or financial strategies that administration might propose to council. There's also at the very end of that appendix, there's a section for funding sources. This is a requirement of the MGA. So only known funding sources are included within this section. So we've included anything that is with the community building fund that we haven't utilized or applied, anything that remains on MSI. There is no placeholder at this time for LGFF funding because we really are not aware of exactly how much we're going to have. So we didn't put a number in there, but we understand that there will be something there when we get to those budget cycles. There's a couple other considerations of things that are not in this forecast, but are items that council needs to be aware of as we move forward. One is that the provincial government is anticipated to review the assessment model in coming years. So depending on how that impacts things, it could significantly impact our tax revenue base and how council would have to move forward with closing any deficits or working with that. And again, there's the LGFF funding, which could both impact our capital funding as well as our operating budget funding when those numbers come out. So as noted earlier, this report is for information. It does not represent any financial commitment from council. It's really for planning purposes and to provide council with a longer view outlook when budget deliberations begin. So council has two options. They can approve these reports as presented, or they can request administration to provide more information on the detail provided.
Well, thank you, Ms. Verbach. I was wondering what you were doing with your extra time.
Always busy.
Are there any questions from council for Ms. Von Verbach?
Surprised?
Not really. Deputy Reeve King.
Okay, so not so much necessarily for you specifically, Marika, but just an overall question regarding the special taxes and frontage as it relates to our water systems. We are projecting a revenue decrease there. Are we contemplating a program or something of some nature that would collect funds towards either infrastructure replacement on our water lines or major maintenance that might occur within those water systems? So if we take away the special taxes and frontage and that revenue disappears, what's the long-term plan as far as the maintenance of those water systems and funding in place prior to having a disaster? Just a question related to that particular item.
Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Reeve, I think there's a couple of approaches to that, and they're related, they're not in isolation. Is one, council will have a review of our reserve structure and how we're looking at treating those reserves coming forward to you. So there's a draft report on my desk now that I'll be going through to bring to you guys. So that's one approach is in terms of that funding puzzle. The second one that we've identified that I think administratively we're going to suggest take place is a rate review, which would tie in some of those questions around what that looks like, what our current rate is. Council's hinted at that hinted is the wrong word. Council's had some of the discussions on that in the past in the vein of balancing what our water rate is versus its role in economic development versus how much you want to subsidize it. Those types of things. So those things would enter the fray in that type of discussion. But that long-term outlook that you outlined, Deputy Reeve King, I think ties into that discussion as to where you want to set that. We still have a vacancy in our asset management position, but some of that data as it comes online will also feed those. We can start the initial discussions and we'll refine those in the coming time once data starts coming in from that function.
Deputy Reeve King.
Just as a follow-up, I guess it's, in my mind, prudent that we have a strategy of some type in place. It's like saying we don't have an equipment replacement strategy and all of a sudden we need 3 graders, so we need a whole bunch of extra money in a specific budget year. I just think that that's one thing that we really want to look at, especially as it relates to our water system. So I look forward to that conversation. The second inquiry I had relates to the, what do we call it, capital and project forecasts, both in the new assets and maintenance of existing assets and replacement of existing assets. We're having a meeting in Huxley this Thursday evening regarding the wastewater system. I see nothing in terms of projection for what we might be looking at in terms of a project related to Huxley wastewater. I see some road and other things there in conversation around Huxley, but certainly nothing forecasted in terms of a future expense potentially that might relate to an improvement in that. And so I just had a question, is that something that's anticipated, or is it something that just not been addressed here specifically?
Anyone want to bite?
No, for sure.
Mr. Zier?
Yeah, through the chair, I can answer that question. And so definitely that was purposeful to leave it out of the forecasting at this point, knowing that we have had the conversation both with council as far as the future plan on that, or with the residents on what the true concerns are, and seeing if we can identify them and resolve them at a lower stage. Definitely we're looking at all aspects and all options for this review, including a cost analysis of a full replacement gravity system. But at this time, we are looking at utility master plans for these hamlets as well, which will incorporate a lot of the current condition ratings on that. Those are above and beyond what we're doing in Huxley for the remainder, but that'll help populate those data for the future there. So definitely is still a consideration right now, but it will be after the meeting and the report is done, direction from council on that.
Well, just as the councillor who represents the ratepayers who inhabit the hamlet of Huxley, I am anticipating that our plan is to do more than just talk related to the wastewater situation that's in Huxley. So I would anticipate seeing something, I'm going to say concrete, but not necessarily of that going forward, a project that would address the issues that are there. So.
Okay, I guess I have it's not really a question because I know what the answer is. But on the revenue side, we are currently in a tax holiday situation. It's not being addressed in here at all because we're pretty sure that, or we don't know if that holiday is going to turn into an extended vacation or if it's going to terminate. So I did want to bring that up though. Mr. Hogan?
So now I don't know if I want to respond to it.
And I don't blame you.
Yeah. So in the forecast, we've kept the tax revenues the same. In any given year, you're going to see fluctuations in that as depreciation on machinery and equipment and linear takes place, balanced off by new development or assessment year modifiers in those areas. So every year we get a bit more detailed as to what that looks like. Likewise, if we have any large developments come online, then you would see those forecasted numbers change. So when Ms. Van Meerbach was talking earlier around when you see that deficit over those 4 years, if say we had a couple of large developments come online and that added a couple $100,000 to the tax revenue, the deficit you're seeing here would shrink accordingly. So we'd have that more detailed information coming up on each budget year as part of that discussion. But you're correct that we've not reflected any of those. We've not tried to predict what depreciation versus new development in 3 years is going to look like.
Thank you. You've reconfirmed my suspicions. Are there any other? Yeah, Councillor Cunningham.
Appreciate that, Reeve. I'd like to know if that's a permanent vacation or if they're going to come back from that, but that could be a good RMA question. But I just wanted to clarify if administration can, for the Parks and Agriculture Services, the Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan, can you just remind me the 2024 88,000 and the 2.8 on 2025, what's earmarked in that master plan implementation?
Mr. Gannon.
Thank you. Through the chair, through those evaluations, what we're going to do is that we're putting a feasibility funding study for those items, as well as an area structure plan in order to move forward with those items, with ensuring we're aligning with some of the provincial items that are coming in the background as well. This is going to ensure that the development is going to align with the economic and the drivers within that the master plan and those working groups.
Are there any other questions from council to the presenter? Or to anyone in the room? If not, what are council's wishes? Deputy Reeve King.
Since our finance people and Marika have done all this work, I think we need to, again, just say thank you. I know it's not easy to keep us happy sitting around this table all the time, but we appreciate your efforts. And as such, I then would make the motion that council approve the 2024 to 2027 operating Appendix A and 2024 to 2029 capital project Appendix F forecasts as they are presented.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion before us as presented on screen. Is there any discussion to that motion? All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marika. And the rest of the team. Alrighty, our next agenda item will be 7.1, Kneehill Medical Services R&R Task Force. Okay, anyway, it's there. Mr. Hogan, you're presenting? Is that news to you?
Yes, no, I'm, sorry, I was having, was working my way through a technical thing with my computer,
Oh,
but
okay.
we're getting there.
I know the feeling.
So this, the item before you is an information item. This is under the terms of reference for the Kneehill Medical Services Retention and Recruitment Task Force. They are required to give members an annual report on what they've been up to, what they have planned, basically what their financial picture is, and that's what's been included in your package. So that is that group, that task force meeting their outlined responsibilities in the terms of reference. And it's before you for your either acceptance, or if there's additional information that you may wish to pose to the committee, we can go that route too.
Does anyone have any questions? If not, what are council's wishes? Councillor McGee.
I just want to say I really appreciate having this report. It's nice to know how things are going on that way. We just want to reinforce that we are investing time and energy into being clear that we are happy to have our medical services happening here, and that we want to support them the best we can within our limitations. So this report really helps me understand how and what we're doing in order to meet that obligation that we philosophically feel strongly about, as well as actually have stated as a need. So having said that, I would like to move that we receive for information the 2023 Medical Services Retention Report, Annual Report.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got a motion to receive as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion? Councillor Cunningham.
Sorry, I should have asked this earlier. Deputy Reeve King, I'm just wondering, the Dr. Redick Legacy Fund, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like what that's about?
This is probably the last time you'll see that item on this report. So it is money that's been being held with the objective of accomplishing some kind of project within the various communities that would acknowledge Dr. Redick. And so We have approved recently, we approved two projects, one in Acme and one in Three Hills. And that money has now been expended. So like I say, it's the last time that you're going to see it here. We had a proposal from Acme for a bench along one of their pathways to acknowledge Dr. Riedick's contribution to our community. And then Three Hills Pool is purchasing a new water-tolerant wheelchair for handicapped people to use the pool. And that'll be acknowledged through the Dr. Riedick Legacy Fund as well, so.
Thank you for that. And that's a wonderful way to honor Dr. Riedick for his long-time service to the community. Yeah.
Yep. It's kind of been a little fly buzzing around our ears for a while on that task force, and so we finally have accomplished dealing with it, so.
Okay, is there any other discussion to the motion before us? Okay, I'm not seeing any. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Okay, next agenda item is 7.2 FCSS Proposed 2024 Budget. Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. So each year, the FCSS board looks over their proposed budget and works out the numbers that they're going to put forward to the member municipalities. As a member municipality, we receive that proposed budget, and the FCSS group is looking for our support of what they're putting forward. So this comes out to all the members. We're not. Even though we're providing approval to their budget, it's not ours to necessarily approve. Enough of the members need to do it, and then it can become official. So currently, we're contributing $52,346 towards regional FCSS. That number does not include the additional funding that we approved as a temporary program to increase family services. So it's actually $52,346 plus roughly $13,300 is where we'd be at. As we go forward, we're seeing a 2.9% increase, which I think is reasonable given the inflation that we're seeing out in the world right now. There is still in 2024 the final year of that temporary funding commitment we made, so that's outlined in the RFD. All in, we would be looking at $69,053, which is an increase of about $3,000 from where we're at currently. When looking through this, administration is recommending that we provide support for the proposed FCSS budget.
Okay, are there any questions from council? There was a discrepancy, was it last year, with overages and underages? Is that being addressed in this budget?
Yeah, I would have to double check that. I don't know if that was FCSS. I know Kneehill Housing had a discrepancy.
Oh, maybe that was Kneehill Housing.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I knew there was something in my head, I just couldn't figure out what it was. Sorry about that.
You just gave Shelley a heart attack.
Yeah, I didn't think she'd make a mistake. Okay, yes, Councillor Cunningham.
So I just want to clarify within our contribution of $52,346, FCSS is housed, I was going to say Old Doctors Clinic, but that makes them sound like old doctors, the former Doctors Clinic. So to my understanding, FCSS uses that facility at no cost to them, correct? So I guess in essence, it's not built in there, but really our contribution would be further than 52,000. If we built that into the cost of what their rent would be if it was someone else renting it to them.
Yeah, through Mr. Reeve, that's correct. So what's outlined in the RFD would be the actual cash that we're going. Beyond this, the county does provide at no cost to the regional group the building space as well as some IT support.
If we were to charge rent, we'd be paying 45.98% of it anyway, so.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think it's just important for ratepayers to know that on top of that 52,000, we are subsidizing the facility, yeah, to some, and which is great, right? But just so people know that if they were to go and rent it from someone outside the county, there would be a cost. So just important for people to be aware of that.
Okay, are there any other, yes, Deputy Reeve King?
Since you raised that issue, Councillor Cunningham, I just want to say that as the chairman of the FCSS board, certainly the support that we receive from the county as far as our financial management, as far as building and other IT support is very much appreciated. And I know our staff over there are very thankful for the staff here that help them through some of the issues that they encounter. The other thing I want to bring to your attention, and Mr. Hogan alluded to it, this is the third year of our $5,000 commitment to the Community Coach Program. The FCSS board is currently looking at how we can extend that program going forward into the future. We really feel that what we've accomplished in the 2 years, soon to be 3 years of that program, has been very, very beneficial for our communities. And so, as difficult as it might be, we are looking for ways to extend that. It's a discussion that's currently happening at our board level. I put it on their plate at our last meeting just to give them a heads up to say, you need to be thinking about this. We are going to be approaching Golden Hills about our funding both for the family wellness workers and for the community coach program. And just to have a conversation with them to say, you know, we've been receiving this standard $45,000 for a long, long time, and we're wondering if that could be changed or altered in an upward direction rather than the opposite way. So just so you're aware that there is conversation going on in terms of how we can maintain the program that we have and how we can continue to provide support to both youth and families in our community without experiencing a major decrease in the amount of support that's available there. So.
I just wanted to thank you for that information and to put my personal 2 bits in on it. Yeah, I guess an editorial could be a good, accurate way. I am very passionate about the differences in stats of the well-being of our kids since we've done that investment. I've seen a big difference. I haven't seen the exact reporting, but some of the numbers, it's looking extremely, frankly, it needs to be bragged about. I also have spent a little bit of time researching, just as my own personal interest, the crisis that the teachers are talking about with crowded schools and the mental health issues and how their place of work is so overwhelmingly difficult and just growing to be more and more so. And I think the model we have, being as unique as it is, needs to bring emphasis to how we really are doing a very huge preventive thing that is saving province and federal dollars by caring for our young people and therefore our community. And I just, again, want to say thank you to FCSS and to our chairman for seeing that, heading that forward, because the only way we can go forward is if we invest with it. And this is a very inexpensive way to save a lot of money.
Okay, Deputy Reeve King.
Yeah, and soon you would have seen in your council correspondence the report on the family wellness workers, and you will be receiving that probably in a council package soon. One of the really interesting things to me is through that COVID time period, we talked a lot about sort of the suicide ideation that was going on within our schools and with children. And in the last 3 years, so in 2022, they were dealing with, let me get my years right. 2020 and 2021, they dealt with 27 children and youth that were in that situation. In 21 and 22, it dropped. And then now it's sitting at, they're currently supporting only 5. So as children have gotten back into the schools and as their social support system has increased and they've had better access to the supports that they need, we're seeing a massive drop in that. And that's in a big part to the fact that they're regularly back in school, but also that they are getting that regular support that they need and there's someone that they can talk to. So that's one of the things that for me is just an absolute massive positive that's come out of this program in the last couple of years. So.
I'd like to see that stat published.
Well, it's in the annual report, so.
Yeah, and then I'd like us to take it even further. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Reeve, to pick up on what Deputy Reeve King has said, the FCSS, the report on the wellness worker will be coming back to you guys. So I've asked Shelley if she wants to come in and to present that. I'd needed to convince her it wasn't another trick to get her here for a celebration, but I think she believes me now, and she's just working out exactly which date she's coming back to present that report to you, but I anticipate it'll be sometime in October.
Okay, Councillor Penner? No, I was telling you. Oh, all righty. Okay, what's council's wish? You want, Councillor Cunningham?
I just want to echo too, I think Kneehill Housing would also say they're very appreciative of the ability to liaison with the Kneehill County staff as well, so very appreciative of that too. So I will move that council approve the proposed Kneehill Regional Family and Community Support Services 2024 budget as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion to approve the 2024 FCSS budget as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously.
Yeah.
Okay, I shall call a recess. We'll be back in session,
9 minutes.
10 minutes. 5.3, which would be the proposed RMA resolution, Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. This item was discussed by Committee of the Whole. It was related to a resolution or a proposed resolution that Wheatland County is putting forward regarding affordable housing programs. The gist of it that they're looking to do is to lobby the provincial and federal governments to increase the focus on affordable housing and to look at specifically the rural components of that and making sure that there are some and that rural areas can actually access it, and looking at making it easier for those rural areas to access. Since the discussion at Committee of the Whole, Wheatland County has made an addition to the recommended motion. I've put that in the background, or the discussion of your request for decision. It's the part that is italicized, unless there's a desire to. I won't go through it verbatim, but it's there. So that has been a new addition from your previous discussion at Committee of the Whole. When we look at that, again, administration is still recommending that we support and to act as a seconder for Wheatland County's resolution.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hogan. Are there any questions from council? If not, Councillor Cunningham.
Again, I just want to say kudos to Wheatland County for putting this forward, and I'm happy to move that council support Wheatland County's proposed RMA resolution regarding affordable housing funding programs.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion that council provides support as a seconder for the proposed resolution. Is there any discussion to that motion? All those in favor? And carried unanimously. Okay, next agenda item shall be the 2024 Municipal Internship Program hosting, 7.4. Mr. Hogan. You're on a run.
I am. So the item that's before you is regarding a request from staff to apply to the Alberta Community Partnership, specifically the Municipal Internship Stream. This is a program that Municipal Affairs that they run. There was an initial program back in the 1980s, and then it went on a very long hiatus and came back quite a number of years ago. But it is still running today, and what the program is designed for is industry succession planning. So Municipal Affairs looks for recent post-secondary graduates that and then they give municipalities a grant to have these individuals work within those municipalities for a term position of 18 months. And during that 18 months, depending on the stream that the intern is in, so there's an admin one where they essentially go through all the departments. There's finance ones where they'll focus on finance, planning where they'll focus on planning. And so depending on what you apply for, if you're approved, then you can receive a grant. There is an expected top-up, as I've outlined in the item itself. In discussion with the senior leadership team, we believe that this is an area that Kneehill County can take part in. The benefit to the individual is that they get an intro into the industry to decide if it's something they want for them or not. We also feel with the things that we have going on, the various projects and stuff like that, that this would provide a great learning experience for an intern, as well as providing an additional resource to us to help forward some of those things. The cost that we're looking at and talking about on this is because it is a term position. We felt one of the things we could do, given some of the vacancies we've had this year, is actually take some of the surplus we've generated from non-payment of those salaries this year, and the mechanics of it, we would work out essentially, we'll put it in a reserve and then we'll use it to fund this project and this program. We couldn't necessarily do that with a permanent position, but because this is a term position, we feel that's a workable solution to it. So we actually feel we can do this without any additional tax draws to our ratepayers. Of mutual benefit. Like I said, over the time that the program's been running, we do have two alumni from this program on our current staff. So it is something that many municipalities take part in. We do, as if we applied to be a host, there's no guarantee we would be chosen as a host. So there's only a set number of interns that the funding program, that the municipal funding will allow for, or provincial funding, I should say, will allow for. So once we apply, then the province will choose which municipalities they'll host. And they try to do a mix of rural and urban and space them out geographically across the province too. So there's no guarantee we would get it, but the deadline is approaching, and we felt we'd ask if there was of interest to council for us to make an application.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a worthwhile program. I know we've shared a municipal intern in the past, and it works out great for them and us. But does council have any questions for Mr. Hogan? Councillor Cunningham.
No questions, but I just want to say that I think it's an amazing program, and it is very awesome to know that we have 2 alumni of this program working for Kneehill County. I think the fellow that was here lately was named Jared. Was it Jared? When we first got on.
Yeah, Mr. Cooney was a municipal intern with the town.
Right, okay, thank you. And I actually met him before I was on council through the town of Three Hills, and it was just awesome to see him kind of in action, working, you know, there with the CEO. I think we're seeing that we're finding it hard to fill some staff positions, so the fact that we've got some interns coming up is awesome. So yeah, I think it's an excellent program. Happy to endorse it.
So what are council's wishes? Yes, go ahead.
So,
Councillor McGee.
having said that, I agree with you fully, Councillor Cunningham, and so I would like to make the motion that we direct administration to submit an application for Kneehill County to be a host municipality for the 2024 Municipal Internship Program.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion before us to direct administration to be a host. Is there any discussion to that motion? All those, oh, go ahead, Councillor Forbes.
Sorry. Do we have to include that the funds would be coming from, in case someone is reading this later and they're like, oh, so now the county's paying for it, do you know what I mean? So do we say that the funds are coming from a reserve of wages not paid out in our current 2023 budget for staffing?
Through you, Mr. Eve, at this point in time, I don't believe that we do. What you'd see, the hosts for the program will be announced in, I believe, early December. We'll know if we were chosen or not. So at that point in time, we can make sure that if we need that funding, that it's reflected in the budget. So it eventually will come out for approval by council in some fashion if we're selected.
And there's also a grant that comes with the program.
Yes, the Municipal Affairs for the 18 months provides a grant of $60,000.
Okay, is there any other discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, 7.5, an addition to our agenda, letter to the province. Am I correct in that? And who's taking that?
Through you, Mr. Eve, I guess it's still my show.
I thought that.
Carry on. So at the previous committee of the whole meeting, the committee recommended that council provide a letter of support to the provincial government regarding the pause on renewable energy developments. And so we have put together a draft letter for council's review. If council would like any changes to that letter, we can make those. But what we are looking for is really council's formal endorsement of sending off that, the letter.
Any questions, discussion, motion? Councillor McGee.
I move that council sends the letter as drafted to our premier.
And are there any CCs going with this letter? There we go. Okay. All righty. Councillor Cunningham.
Could I also suggest that we CC it to the Minister of Energy? And also, I believe, is it the Minister of Affordability that oversees the AUC? Those would be two I'd just like added to that.
Through you, Mr. Reid, we can make those additions.
Okay, is there any other questions, concerns? If not, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay. So our next agenda item, it'll be 8.1, disposition of delegate and public hearing, well, disposition of delegate.
Through you, Mr. Reid, this is the item in relation to the delegation and the presentation that we had earlier today. With the RFD, you will see the attached letter of request from the Acme Alumni Association. The details of the project and what they're looking for, we heard earlier today. So I think for this, I'll just reiterate that we do have $50,000 that was the last motion pertaining to that was from 2018. That is currently sitting in one of our reserves earmarked for this project. So we've approached this as we will be sending that funding at the appropriate time. Of course, there will be some added motions likely there for council. But the question we have before you is, does council want to stay at that commitment? Do you want to put forward a different level of commitment based on the information that you heard today? Depending on if you're looking to stay at 50,000, that money is sitting there. If you're looking to increase that, then we'd have to look at what possible funding options based on the level of increase that you were looking at.
Do we have a place that we could draw additional funding from if we made that decision?
Through you, Mr. Reeve, I think we've got a couple of places. Council does have a contingency reserve that you could make a draw from. Depending on the timing, there's some other work that we'd have to do on some areas, but the short version is you can make a reserve draw for that. The other one that might open itself up, given that the funding doesn't have to go out today, you could also look to reallocate a portion of the we had the second quarter variance report in front of you not too long ago that was indicating a surplus. I really don't want to spend surpluses before they're generated, but I think we're in a position where, depending on the funding commitment, there's likely some funds at the end of the year that we could utilize.
Well, as stated by the delegate, there is a 2-year window of opportunity there. So I would personally like to see us support at a bigger number than what we've already committed at, but it's not my decision. It is council decision. But I see a lot of opportunity there. Oh, Councillor Folks, sorry.
No, you're fine. Just offhand, does anyone know what we gave to Trochu when they were building as a county? Because I didn't sit here at that time.
I do believe the number was 40,000, but that would have to be checked. I mean, I got a memory, but I don't know how good that memory is. I know it's a difficult decision. Councillor Penner.
Well, and I thank Mr. Northcott for coming in. It was just an eye-opener there for the cost per square meter was almost doubled, in that short amount of time that they've been working on this project. So doubling it's not going to go far, but I would just going to throw that number out there for discussion. To the 100.
Counselor McGee.
I also was thinking when I was contemplating this at home, we've had this money in reserves since 2018, earning interest. Would we know about how much interest is? At minimum, that needs to be added. So maybe finding, would we have that? It would be just an estimate, of course, because it's all put into a lump sum, I get that, but just kind of a ballpark figure.
Through Mr. Reeve, we did look at that. Again, as you're correct, Councillor McGee, it is a ballpark figure because we invest as a lump sum, not tied to specific this dollar. But our estimate of that would since 2018, we estimate that about $7,000 in interest would have been earned on that $50,000. So you'd be looking.
That money was actually sitting in that reserve prior to 2018 also, from when the original motion was made, and I can't remember, but 2016 possibly. I know it's been quite a while. But at that point in time, I do believe there wasn't even I know there wasn't a school being built. It was just a gymnasium with an innovative center being there. So the opportunity to do it as a one-off, or as at the same time as a school being built is there. And 72% of the kids that are attending school are rural kids. Councillor Christie.
The other part of the interest is it's probably 2 years before it would go out, and the interest rates now are much better than they were at the start of this.
Probably $10,000.
Councillor Penner.
And just to add to that, this school has got 3 communities going to there for high school. And the gym is very important for high school. For elementary, junior high, it's a so-so, but when you get to the provincial level bowl and whatnot else, we have to remember that there are 3 communities going to this school for high school.
Councillor McGee.
I also was, in reflecting this, thinking about the investments we've made to the Torrington Arena, and granted that's our own building, but it also is a community center, so to speak, that we're investing in because we see our residents utilizing it so well. And I would say this facility has promised to be equally as great for the community as far as community usage outside of school time as well. And so that is really affecting my thoughts around that too, that this is a good investment, again, in our youth. We could also make it part of our youth support under our strategic plans. There's, the more I talk, the more I can find more justification.
Oh, Deputy Reeve King.
So I kind of feel like if we're gonna make a commitment, I'd rather make a commitment for X number of dollars without any conversation around what that investment income might be or otherwise. The Acme School has one of the most innovative mentoring programs that you're gonna see anywhere. And they are working hard to create an environment that allows their students to be successful in whatever area of life they choose to follow after high school. And a lot of them are well on their way into those careers by the time they're done high school because of the approach that they're taking. We have made a lot of conversation at council around supporting the youth in our community. And one of the ways that we do that is through sports, which Acme has an amazing sports program there as well, and through providing opportunity for them to learn, not only academically, but in terms of trades and other ways. And so I'm excited about what they do in Acme. Every time I go down there and visit that school and see what's going on there, it's an amazing situation. So I kind of like what Councillor Penner had to say is I'd like to potentially see us move towards the request of the 100,000 as opposed to somewhere in between, but again, that's a council decision. So I guess I would say at this point, I would allow for some more conversation before a motion is on the table, but I'd like to hear what some of the other councillors are thinking.
Well, I know our initiative is to keep our youth within our communities. And I know with the programs that they are running through the Acme school, there are a number of youth that have apprenticed through the programs and are still in Kneehill County, or within the region anyway. And I think that's important. And that is one of our strategic goals, is to keep our youth in the community. But I think that's being accomplished. I'd hate to see that go away. Go ahead, Mr. Hogan.
Through you, Mr. Eve, one of the things I'd suggest to council, this isn't for the discussion itself, but just as we come up on making a motion ultimately, is if you choose to remain at the 50,000, the existing motion would cover for that. If council does opt to provide more funding, we'd have a different motion recommendation for you. And that would involve basically confirming the funding amount and directing administration to bring back proposed funding options to you. Because one of the things that on this particular project, those could be broken up over 2 different budget years. There's a number, they could be taken all at once from reserve, anything like that. The money won't be going out tomorrow. When it does, there will be need a motion specifically for what's sitting in the reserves. But it would allow us to tie those into a budget process or do something like that. So there is that opportunity that if you do look at increasing that, we would recommend a different motion.
Thanks, Mr. Hogan. Councillor McGee.
You just answered one of my questions. My other question, and maybe Reeve Woodstock, you know the answer. Oh, I didn't think to ask this when he was here. Do we know if there's recognition for donors? Because if we're going to have a big sum like this, how do we want to recognize that piece? Because we've always had that in place, that if we donate, we need to have some kind of recognition. And I'm not sure, do we need to have a discussion around that, or just how to put that into the motion, I guess, is what I'm asking as well.
I'm sorry, I don't believe I can answer that. I know as far as our donation, we would probably require the Alumni Association to come and we'd have a photo op here. But if it's like any other community projects that have happened in there, there is a donation wall with recognition of those who donated. But again, I'm not going to confirm or, well, I could deny, but I'm not going to deny either. But I'm not going to confirm that's what's going to happen. But I agree, there should be recognition if we do donate. Councillor Cunningham.
So I know Mr. Northcott kind of touched on this, but just to make it very clear for our ratepayers, I wonder, Mr. Hogan, are you able to explain how the province funds gymnasiums with the amount they got?
Through you, Mr. Reeve, not to a great extent. My understanding, and I'm gonna use that word intentionally, without being able to confirm that it's completely accurate, is that there's basically when they build a school, they have certain standards. And if you want to exceed those standards, then it's up to the community to do that. So that would be what is happening here. I'm not up to date on exactly how they fund playgrounds, but I believe it's similar.
Councillor McGee.
I would agree with that. And what I've heard from other people who are building schools is that there's an actual formula, what that looks like, but there's a formula based on population, blah, 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 blah.
The silence is deafening.
No, I can always talk.
Councillor Cunningham.
I'll talk if it's deafening. So I am 100% in favor of supporting this. In my past life, I worked down at Acme School, so as a career counselor, so I was able to see the collaboration between what they're doing there with their innovation programs and the agriculture. I absolutely love what they're doing down there, and I hope it can be done in other schools eventually as well. I'm just trying to go, like, I know it's hard to be fair, but I'm looking back at 2018 at the 40 that we gave Trochu, and of course inflation, and as we know, like he said, every day, every minute, we all know that prices are going up. I would be a little bit more comfortable myself with 75, but I'm interested to hear what everybody else has to say.
And the 40 was off the top of my head, from what I could remember. I think I'm correct, but we'd have to investigate that. Councillor McGee.
So fairness is the hard question. I come from a family that, you know, base every decision on what's fair, and of course that's a constant changing definition. My grandmother had allocated $30 for every wedding gift she gives to any grandchild. Well, when I got married 35 years ago, I got a much nicer gift than my sister who got married 10 years ago. So, like, and I kind of see it the same way. We know that the cost to build the same thing Trochu would want, if it was to be fair, to get exactly what Trochu got from the $40,000, we'd likely have to give double. And so, and in my opinion, we can justify that we've earned interest by allocating that money and not utilizing it yet. I would like to say that that's their interest. My number is 110.
Councillor Forbes.
So I guess my question also comes, and I am for this, my children went there and played school sports against Acme, so I do love their sports program and the passion that comes from that community. Is there going to be any other schools in our county that we're going to need improvements and they're going to measure themselves to what we're about to do here?
This is the last school that it will be.
This is the last one? Okay.
Well,
see?
all the other schools have been upgraded. So because that was a question that I had asked Mr. Northcott a week ago when we first spoke. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Reeve, while the conversation's been going on, Carolyn did dig up in our past minutes. In 2012, the county granted Friends of Troval School $45,000 over 3 years.
Huh. Damn, missed it by 5.
Sorry, you missed the wall.
Okay. I didn't pay attention for the amendment.
Fell asleep.
That was 11 years ago. I remember who made the motion. Councillor Christie.
I guess my number's 100,000, and because it's gonna be over time, it could be amended considering interest 2 years from now. That would be where I would be.
Councillor Forbes.
And this isn't a knock to the school system. This is me being realistic. I want to drive a Ferrari, but I can't afford the Ferrari. So I buy an Accord because that's what I can currently afford. And I love that they have a wish list and what they would like to see so that they can house things in a larger scale. But I also have to think about the people that are buying into this as well and where they're at with that buy-in. It's I love schools, so I'm not gonna ever say, because especially for Acme, their industry is developing around there and they're gonna need the school but I still have to be mindful of the fact that I am using ratepayers' money in this county, not just my division, the whole entire county.
Councillor McGee.
To your point, but I also think about, of all the schools, this one has the most divisions of ratepayers attending. So most of the other schools had only one division that they're drawing from, maybe a second one, but this would have probably 3 divisions they're drawing families from. So when we look at the county as a whole, the number of, area of which they're servicing is pretty high.
And 3 Hills.
Yeah, are they all that big? Okay.
Deputy Reeve King.
So we have gone round and round on it, and again, I guess my emphasis is on support for youth in our community. We know the academic program down there, we know the sports program down there, we know the innovation that they're doing in terms of providing life experience for the students down there. I know Trochu got 45, but that was a while ago, and we all acknowledge the fact that costs have gone up. So, so you can either affirm or deny the request. I am going to make the motion that we support a funding amount of 100,000 for the Acme School Gymnasium project and direct staff to develop recommended funding options. That way we can, nope, not $1 million. Although, then it would be the Kneehill. So that would be my motion. I mean, we can debate it further, and we can turn this motion down and make another, but that's, I put it on the table.
Okay, well, thank you for the motion has been made to fund in the amount of $100,000 for the Acme School Gymnasium project and direct staff to develop a recommended funding options. Discussion to the motion. Councillor Christie.
I guess one of the comments I make is that community has the most potential for growth of more students too. So it, I know Trochu has struggled to keep their population in the schools up. I know a couple of years ago they said if they had to do the improvement now, they wouldn't have the numbers to justify it. If since then it has grown, but Acme's going to outgrow it for sure, I believe.
Councillor Forbes.
With the motion, I guess, when I look at that, is it possible that we can say in addition to what we've already gave? Just because I don't want Acme thinking they're gonna get 100,000 above the 50 they've already got. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's just, for clarity purposes. Not sure.
Yeah, it is unclear. Do you know what I mean? Okay.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's a friendly motion, but friendly motion, amendment? Oh, I'm losing it here. It was very friendly. Is that the way you would like to see the motion, Deputy Reeve King?
I'm fine with that. If they come back looking for 150, we could revert back to the original, and that would soon settle their hash. So, no, that provides some clarity, so thank you.
Okay, sorry I flubbed up my, yeah. Okay, so that would be for a total of 100,000. Is there any more discussion to the motion? Councillor Cunningham.
Not that I have to explain my decision, but I will. I'm not comfortable with 100,000, but I just really want them to be aware. I mean, I think I've made it very clear. I love what they're doing at their school. I hated playing sports against them because they usually kicked our, you know what. So, and like I said, I totally love what they're doing, but I just, when I look at what we gave Trochu, I understand inflation. Like I said, I would be more comfortable with the 75 mark, but so that's just where I'm at.
Okay, is there any other discussion to the motion? Okay, I am not seeing any, so I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much. Are we breaking for lunch? Does anyone know if are we going into our next agenda item? Haven't heard any bags rustling. Okay, so does council want to continue on in this agenda? Okay, we're going on to council and committee reports. Community Futures Wildrose. Councillor Christie.
I've included the annual report and the new style of reporting in our package that I handed out to council last time. The other part that's missing from that is the skills in action program that they're looking at very hard that will foster your employees that are having communication problems. If you need enhanced computer or basic number skills, one of the challenges from the comment from Tim Hortons in Strathmore is when kids are asked to make change because everybody pays with plastic, they stumble because they don't use it all the time. They're not up to date. So the program is for employers that have up to 5 employees that they have to have 5 or more to enroll, I guess. But it's funded federally so that the employee gets cash if he completes all the modules and the employer gets paid. But it starts the 1st of October and it's a 90-day program. So if anybody's out there that needs the program, so I believe it has to be done by the 1st of January, but it's more designed for immigrants and kids that are just getting started and stuff. So the modules are, it's free training, it's reading comprehension, basic number skills, improved computer skills. $500 is paid to the employee for participating in the training. It helps them be more employable, uses technology better. If a business is successful in getting 5 employees, they get paid $2,000. So it's a program that's well worth looking at. I know that Chris Reeves was making sure that the Sunterra meat plant got the information. So the same thing with the greenhouse and that kind of stuff. So is there any questions?
Again, here's a situation where, and I hate to beat on the drum, but Acme School is ahead of the curve in the fact that they're providing life skill training and job training to students while in high school. The sad thing about our education system, and I don't say this as a bash against any teacher who happens to be out there, is we are graduating students without the ability to communicate and without the ability to do math in any way that's practical. And one of my most favorite things in the world is to go into a place like Tim Hortons and buy something that's $8.25, give them a $10 bill, and then say, oh, wait, I have a quarter, and give them that quarter and see how they manage that transaction, especially if they've already rung it into the till, because then it is like, whoa, stop. So I totally support where Community Futures is going with that program, but it is an indictment against our education system that we are not graduating students who have those basic life skills. And so I applaud Community Futures, and I applaud what Acme School is doing in terms of that skill training that they're doing beyond just the basic education. So.
Councillor Christie.
I'm just reading my poster. I've misrepresented it as $1,000 paid to businesses that have 5 to 10 employees that take the course, and $750 for 5 or less, for 5 employees, I guess. But they still incentive to get them in there. So I mean, somewhere down here I read, doesn't say the exact number. They have to fill, or the employee has to do 6 modules to get the full cash amount. So.
Okay, is there any other questions for Community Futures Wildrose? If If not, we can go on to the Police Advisory Committee.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Cunningham?
So just in addition to my written report, things change daily, it seems like, in this world. So I'm sure a lot of you, or some of you that are on social media, or if you happen to read the Capitol, there's been a drastic increase in rural crime in the last even month. It is coinciding a bit with the release of some repeat offenders that are very known to many in the area. So I just want to remind, all of us and all our ratepayers and everyone to lock your vehicles, utilize your security systems. It was mentioned earlier by Ms. Grossfield that there is a program through the Peace Officers and Environmental Protection Program. Yep. So please utilize the services that we have. I have had, some of my ratepayers have been affected to the point where vehicles have been stolen and written off. So it's not good. So just, I could say it every day, but I just want to thank Sergeant Jamie Day and the staff for doing an excellent job. It's frustrating for them because I know a lot of times they catch these folks, and by the time their shift is done, these folks are released. So that is definitely going to be an advocacy piece that I'm going to work on. And I know you mentioned earlier, Deputy Reeve King, about being appreciative to them, and I do make sure definitely that I tell them every meeting we have that that's definitely the voice of council, is that we are all very appreciative of the work that they do. So, and just if anybody has anything that you'd like me to take back, if you're hearing things in your area, please let me know, and I'll definitely take that back to them. So, but yeah, it's definitely, you'll see, I think it'll come out in the Capitol tomorrow, but yeah, there's definitely been a lot of action in the area, unfortunately, so.
9.3, Marigold?
Just a short bit here. We've changed our meetings in that every other one will be online to save on the expenses of travel. So, and just a reminder, that would be Marigold's expenses, because in that case, each municipality has already paid to Marigold. Marigold pays our travel. So Marigold's doing some good budgeting with innovative ways of taking care of that. We have Nora Otto, our executive director for many years, has retired, and so she will be greatly missed. And the biggest excitement is the old building has been sold, and every piece of detailed business to do with that old building has been completed. So we had a great celebration about that. So that's been very good. And the exciting part is it's a daycare that's going in, so that's going to really fill a need of the community. So that was kind of exciting. Yeah. Should I move on to my next report?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Wow. My superhero report. We have had to deal with a lot of in-house business in Cape over the last several months, and at times I think our municipal membership is getting a bit frustrated with what you can see as tangible outcomes. And the outcomes are we'll be much more efficient, much more directed. We are looking at our strategy planning in November. We've had a governance training session a couple months ago to take a look at it, and we're acknowledging various things. In the meantime, our new coordinator is contacting each and every municipality membership, as well as some that have withdrawn memberships, to just see what the needs are, how we can better fit the needs, so that in the upcoming year, we will have some really great outcomes to report that will make you excited that we're still members. Please believe me. Because of all this work, and also by the type of people who are around the table and the types of work they have, we have changed our meetings to not every other month for a full day, but every month for half day. And again, we're doing every other, or nearly every other, online when it's feasible to just do it online. We have been doing a fair number of them online as well to keep the expenses and the time commitments for everybody down while we do the hard work we've had to do the last little while. As municipal councillors, we've done more work than normally you would see in our role. So I'm glad to see that we're finding ways to manage that. Our coordinator has been ill, going through cancer treatment, which has also made her not fully full-time, and so that is another one of our hurdles that we had to deal with, and she has completed that round and is waiting for reports, but we're thinking we're flying from here, and you'll see more work coming out of that as well. And I'd like to just let you know, in case anyone's interested to pop in and meet anybody, we will be having our next meeting here at the Kneehill County Building the 3rd Thursday of November. October, right? Yes, of October. Yes, so that was exciting. Any questions? Because I do think there is merit in being concerned about outcomes here, so.
Councillor Forbes.
So I guess my one question is if you've had some issues with your in-house stuff, have you guys did policies to reflect that so it doesn't happen again?
Oh, yes.
Okay, just for people listening.
Yeah, we've done a lot of excellent work, including legal help. Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions for Councillor McGee to deal with Marigold or Cape? Next agenda item, 9.5, ITT.
I can get that ball rolling.
I'm looking forward to that.
Not yet, this is still a report as well.
Yeah, this is still council and committee reports.
So, a handful of us, I have to backtrack to my other report. I forgot to add to my Cape report that we had to cancel the delegation summit. We had a summit planned with delegations from India coming to site visit very specific locations in our membership, ours not being one of them. Troshu was one of them. There was, I think, 7 planned. Unfortunately, with the political changes around visas, etc., this is not feasible, which is really unfortunate because it was supposed to happen only in a few weeks. So it's really a big disappointment for a lot of people because there was a lot of time and energy put into it, but we are tentatively setting it for next year. Now I'll go back to our actual topic. I wanted to clarify that the summit that we went to yesterday was hosted by an organization called the Tourism Industry Association of Alberta, which is an advocacy group that has nothing to do with the government. And so this is where the fee question that was asked at the time of contemplating whether to go comes into play. This is a group of various people within the tourism industry that have come together to try to advocate for making tourism better and more cohesive through our province. And I found what they do quite interesting. I spent a lot of time on their website as well and really encourage you to do that. I've passed to each councillor member one of their pages that they have in their resources, which gives us the quick little details of what Alberta visitor economy looks like. I love that phrase, visitor economy. I think it's a very important one, and I'll tell you why. For me, it is so important because we have rising costs and more expenses, and in my opinion, the more dollars we can bring into the county that are from visitors, the better it will serve our people. And this is why I get excited about it, because it's a way to generate money that does not mean our residents are spending the money. And and tourism is recognized as bringing in about 10% of the income that we have in Alberta, which that's pretty enormous, and I want a piece of that, is my philosophy around that. So it's a very good, very strong piece of economic development, in my opinion. So I appreciated going. Overall, learned lots, but my highlight was Councillor Chrisley and I were very last to leave because we, talk and visit and stuff. And fortunately, we're there long enough to have Andy from Travel Alberta come and shake hands with us and talk a bit about his dreams and thoughts around some of the potential in our area, and I really appreciated that connection. I think that will help moving forward to build those relationships, to see where we head. When it comes to the details, I have details, but there was more than I there, so I'll let other people talk, and then if I have anything to add, I'll add it at the end.
Yep, Councillor Cunningham.
So thank you for that clarification, Councillor Marie. I think that was me that asked that. I wish I had known that at the time when I made my decision whether to go, that it wasn't from a government arm, Travel Alberta, but anyhow, is what it is. A couple of my takeaways were, it's always great to have the opportunity to listen to a member of government. So Mr. Joseph Chow, I think is the way his name is pronounced. He's the Minister of Tourism Sport, spoke. I know I personally didn't get a chance to catch him. I don't know if any other colleagues did. It was interesting. I would have liked to see more rural content of it. It seems like so much of this stuff we go to is focused. I mean, there was chat about rural, but I just would have liked to see it a little bit more focused on rural. The fellow that talked, I can't remember his name, that talked about accessible tourism. I thought that was very interesting, and I think it's something we should all consider when we are planning our tourism. A lot of chatter about the government tourism levy and where they're going to go with that, so I look forward to hearing more about that. Again, a lot of focus on the Edmonton, Calgary, Banff, and Jasper regions. So again, it's like, how do we get people not away from there, but they can still come and do those things, but how do we get them out here in rural Alberta, I think is the big question. I know at my table there was a lady from the Calgary Chamber of Commerce and also Tourism Calgary, so it was interesting to kind of catch their perspective on things. And there was a lady named Janet Brown that has a research company in Alberta. The one thing I really took away from her is she said we have to make tourism affordable, whether that's a staycation or what it is. So I think when we go forward planning tourism events, whatever it is, I think we need to be mindful of cost and people's dollars. So let's try to make things affordable so people will utilize them. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, and just what I took away from it, well, I took quite a bit away from some of the stuff. Other than the stuff, I just left it there. One of the things that I did understand is that we have an opportunity here for the next 2 years. The province is, it was actually stated, flush with money, flush with cash, and they do want to partner with communities and members and municipalities. So there is the opportunity here that possibly, if you want to get something done, get on it and get started, because in 2 years, who knows where it's going to be. But yeah, I found it interesting. I did skip out on the last breakout session. I didn't want to be caught on the Deerfoot parking lot, so I left a little early. Councillor Phillips, you got something?
I sure do. I really liked the conference for some learning aspects in the insurance industry that deals with tourism, the Gen AI part of it as well, how that is now coming into play, and it isn't something that just took place in the last 5 minutes. They've been at this for a few years now in their development of it. The other thing I really, when I was listening to the speakers, is my head was always, how do I bring them from there to here? So how do I partner with the people that have things already in place, like the Good Nights, for example, or anybody, the Alpaca Farm, or anyone that could offer an experience to someone who doesn't live in this province, or if they do, come out to rural Alberta and have an experience they wouldn't get if they lived in an urban center. So I did have a few things playing around in my head during and after on ideas that I think would be really beneficial as a county that we could partner with our ratepayers that are currently in business for stuff.
Okay, is there anything else? If not.
Mr. Christie, you didn't get,
I said before, what got us here won't get us there.
The other definition that we touched on a little bit is pedestrian. A pedestrian is a person that walks from point A to point B. A pedestrian is somebody that can't walk. So they
Important
roll
word.
or get there. So if you look it up, there's no real definition of whether facilities are accessible. So that's coming, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece to mention.
And I was on their website yesterday, and we could, someone from our area could do some pedestrianing so that our people that have disabilities would know what buildings are accessible, what buildings are not, playgrounds, all of those things. If it's not in your area, it could be.
Councillor McGee.
I wanted to add just a couple highlights for me, and one thing that I thought was really helpful that was told by more than one organization, please remember that when you are dealing with the Alberta government ministers, to be sure to come with solutions. Hearing problems is not the point, so I think that really helps us in general with any type of advocacy. That's a really important thing to remember. If you want to have impact, have a solution in mind when you bring that forward. They're very, very, very busy people. I also wanted to say that the other thing as we look forward into how we plan and organize things is that people no longer want stuff. They want an experience. They want unique experiences. And I think this is where we are going to be really blessed. We have many great experiences in our area, and I look forward to where we take those.
Councillor Phillips.
In regards to the insurance, I mean, they spoke at length about making sure that you had commercial insurance, because if there's a state of emergency, the province only covers what a commercial insurance doesn't cover. So if you don't have any commercial insurance, when a disaster happens, the province isn't going to give you money. Just so people are also aware of that. And I don't think, I mean, we look at it, but maybe we need to look at our stuff a little more closely.
Councillor Christie.
On that insurance subject, one of the things that an affected business talked about was out-of-business insurance, that they were well insured for their facility, but they didn't have their initial out-of-business insurance, so employees were leaving, where if they'd had out-of-business insurance, they could have kept them on payroll and kept their workforce. It's fine to lose a building, but if you lose a building and your workforce, you're kind of hooped.
Okay, is there anything else? Someone like to make a motion? Receive for information? Yes?
I'll make a motion to receive for information the committee report.
Okay, we have a motion to receive for information as presented our committee, council and committee reports. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, so we will recess for lunch. I do have one announcement to make. It's specific for Ms. Shelley Jackson-Berry, if you're still online or out there. I profoundly apologize for the confusion I may have caused with my requisition thoughts. So if you're out there, I'm hoping that I didn't cause too much of an increase in blood pressure for you, Shelley. Thank you. We are now? Okay. We're up in the air. Okay, I will bring the meeting back to order. Our next agenda item is 11 point, number 10, council follow-up action list. Questions, concerns? Councillor Cunningham.
So apologies, because I know we did talk about this earlier in the meeting about the letter that was developed to send to the Premier, and I had added a couple of ministries. Would I be able to add a few other ministries further to that? Yeah, okay, just making sure. Okay, so just, oh, sorry, Carolyn. So just because I have seen some other templates of what has gone from other municipalities, definitely the MLAs, Minister of Energy, Minister of Affordability and Utilities, that's the one that governs AUC, Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister of Environment and Protected Areas, Minister of Forestry and Parks, Minister of Jobs, Economy and Trade, and then this one that I'm, sorry, the one that they also did send it to the RMA as well, so. I think that would be great. I just think they've done a very, I mean, obviously they've got some different MLAs. I mean, honestly, I don't think it would hurt to send it to the MP as well, because it is a federal discussion as well. I think MP Dreeshen had an article in the Three Hills Capital, I think in the last 2 months, so I certainly don't think it would hurt to send it to him as well, so.
Possibly the ag minister too, because we're playing with the quality of land.
Fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Sorry for the long list, but I guess while it's going, if I can.
So is that the same as the list on the Mountain View letter?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, we'll take it for there and make sure that the ag minister is included. And now when you talk MP, do you want Damien Kirk included? Okay.
What's our budget on paper?
I think it's the ink that's the problem.
Deputy Reeve King.
So, is the seal coating started on 240 and 234? Or when was that planned to happen?
Yes, so through the chair, the project initiation date was yesterday. They were moving in with the dig outs, the repairs, as well as the seal coating crew was following right after that. They actually have a deadline of September 30th to have that completed, or else we are pushing it to next year based on weather conditions. Yeah.
And then I just had another question. Is there a sort of a time frame in which we would start to crack seal in that on our new pavements, like the Hasty and the Gore roads? Just wondering, I don't know that we did any crack sealing on the Hasty road this year, but.
No, through the chair, that was planned for next year. I believe it's, I'll have to go back in the schedule, but I think it's a 3-year cycle with crack sealing on those roads.
Okay, I just noticed it is starting to have
Definitely, yeah, we noticed that as
frost
well.
fractures and whatever, so. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councillor McGee.
Is it appropriate to ask about a couple things that aren't actually on the follow-up list, that are still follow-up questions? Okay, good. One,
We can vote on it.
I just need to be reminded if it's already been discussed, but have we set a time to have a discussion about the outcome of the Long Table and Country Market? And that also then planning for the future around that? Has that been set?
Thank you, through the chair. The team is gathering all the information within it. They've done some surveys. We didn't get a ton of response through those surveys. So there is a fragmented amount of information that's coming. So they're just making sure all the final bills and everything's accounted for before they come forward with council on expressing the how the event went from their standpoint, but also providing options to council of what it potentially could look like in future years, and what the vision of council will be. So we're hoping within the next month or so to bring something to council as far as a report and options, because we'd like to be, we would like to have the funding envelope in place earlier, to ensure that we can attract the resources that are required for next year.
Thank you. And then the other question I have is, with our new program, I've been actively playing in our new program. Sorry, I forget the name for it, but yeah, eScribed. When you do the attachments, could we have the RFDs named as an RFD colon then what it's about? It just helps me process. So I know it's always the first document, but under attachments, so let's go to one that didn't have, some had it, not all of them had it. I'll find one that didn't.
There's one on your screen, does that work for you?
The first attachment is always the RFD. I don't know how to change the titles. Yeah, so you can't make the title RFD colon and then the title of the RFD? That's too much work? Program doesn't work? Try to. What did, sorry, repeat that? Did you want to? Well, I would just love to see it identified as the RFD in the title somewhere. Just because when I'm quickly scanning, sometimes it just helps highlight, but. Yeah, the first attachment is RFD. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Christie.
We were talking about 25-1, the culverts, have they been repaired or they're on the list, or on the Hasty Highway, that 2 culverts that are broke?
Oh, through the chair, you're talking about the bridge file size culverts?
I don't know, I guess it was a bridge file. But on the 33-4, just north of that?
Yeah.
Where the 2 culverts, the coupler had come loose on the one culvert?
Right. Yeah, so those were repaired as part of the contract with, yeah, no, thank you. That they were definitely repaired before the asphalt actually went down.
On the old one.
Yes, but sorry, it was part of that contract for that, yes. Yeah.
Seeing as how there's a bridge out north of that, I haven't used that road very much.
Right, fair enough. Yeah.
You have to use your microphone if you can have a conversation.
I say on that bridge, the deck is on, the road surface has got gravel on it now where they've packed it, but no asphalt yet. So they were still working on the deck itself and no guardrails yet, so there won't be long before they're done, but.
Okay, are there any other questions to deal with the council action list? Follow-up action list? If not, could someone make a motion to accept for information as presented? Councillor Forbes?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to accept, to receive for information, the council follow-up action list as presented. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Our next agenda item would be closed session, personnel item, section 17 of FOIP. Could someone move us into closed session? Councillor Christie?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried unanimously.
One now.
Okay, we made a motion to come out of closed session at 1:54. We've let the gallery fill. It is now 1:56. There are no motions coming out of closed session. The agenda is complete, other than we've deferred item 4.1 for later meeting. So at this point in time, I shall adjourn the meeting. Thank you.